All right. So now this is regarding the CKS certification. This point we're talking about how the Kubelet API kind of works. Basically, this part of the section, I will focusing on this part of the section, the node metadata and endpoint protection, right? So they are going to ask us about that. And this is the pointed material, which is this guy. The security. All right. Right. Basically, how do we secure access access to API? This one is very simple. You just use the node policy, right? You whitelist what a certain pod or blah 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 can talk to, right? Which endpoint they can talk to. I think that's one of the best ways to actually restrict API access. Node network policy. But as we all know, network policy is not that robust at this point, right? Because it only allows certain things, you know, host name whitelist, IPI whitelist, you know, I don't know, CNAME, stuff like that. It allows those whitelists, but it's not as complex as other whitelisting tools out there. But you can get the job done. You can get the job done. So that's what that link is about. Basically, how do you restrict, access? Of course, using network policy. Now, um, now kubelet. This is where things kind of get very interesting. Kubelet access, restriction, authorization, authentication, right? Remember, kubelet is an API. It just, it's a server, right? It accept requests, also like, it sends requests to the API server, right? Now, there are different ways to authenticate with kubelet, anonymously, whereby someone can just make an API call to a kubelet, like, hey, how are you doing? And the kubelet is going to be like, oh, what's up? I don't know you, right? Now, that's part of the kubelet authentication, but this is recommended for you to disable this. Just kill it. But it's available for you for some weird reason. You want to keep this alive, right? You can also use like certificate, right? You can use certificate to be like, oh, here am I, to identify yourself with the API server and talk to the API server. The question is, what are some of the things that a kubelet talks to the API server about? It talks to the API server about itself, the pod running on it, the services, or some of those like objects running on that particular node on which the kubelet is managing, right? Now we have the bearer token thing whereby use like service account token. I'm not going to go deep into this, right? I'm not going to go deep into this, right? This is one of the way that kubelet can authenticate certificate token, or just let's all in, right? Now authorization simply means uh, how does it get ability of what it can do. All right, so remember, kubelet is belongs to node group. It belongs to a node group, right? And that particular node group has a form of authorization of what can be done, right? Yeah, what can be done, what capability it's going to have. So that particular node group has those things that the kubelet can do, right? That's why if it's anonymous, it's going to be part of this node group, system anonymous, right? Oh, sorry, system authenticated, right? But if it's not, if it's authenticated, it's going to be part of like the system node group, not system unauthenticated group. And the system node group, comes with certain permission, right? Now, there's one other thing that I would like to talk about, which is where is that guy? The node restriction. The node restriction admission controller, right? Remember before, the kubelet can be like, hey, can do whatever I want, basically, right? A kubelet can modify pods, any kind of pod on, even if the pod is on a different node, modified its own node object, change labels. But this particular admission controller is going to be like, hey, you cannot do that, right? For example, if you enable this node restriction, it can only modify objects that pertain to itself. For example, it can only update objects about its own node, right? So it doesn't go around and messing up other people's objects. For example, node A cannot just request for node B object and mess things up, right? Because if an attacker takes over node A, it won't be able to mess up node B. And also, it can only mess up, ports that are running on that same node. So Kubelet can only mess up those ports, which is this more like a security thing, right? And also, this kind of label it cannot modify this kind of label. It cannot add them, it cannot remove them, it can just, yeah, it can't do anything to this label. The rest, yeah, might be able to do that. But this one, it won't be able to do that. All right. Any other thing I'm supposed to let you know in this section? Absolutely nope. Right. So basically, the only important thing I found in this section is just how does a kubelet authorize itself? Sorry, yeah, authenticate itself, right? That's one of the most important part. Now, do you secure it, right? Right. Yeah, that's all I have, and I will see you in the next video.